The story will be told from the perspective of the main female character.
The clapping started before I even understood what she said. My mother held up a bunch of papers under the bright party lights. She looked really proud when she told everyone, "We are giving this house to them." Everyone in the room started cheering. My sister began to cry, and my father was smiling a lot. I just sat there. I held my drink so tight it felt like it weighed a ton. Nobody looked my way. Nobody seemed to remember that I was the person who took care of that house for the last 6 years. I told myself to take a breath. I tried to smile and stay in my seat, but as soon as my mother put the papers down, I felt a change. It was a sharp, quiet feeling, and I knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long. I used to believe that helping out parents was just what a grown-up child does. You don't need a spotlight or a reward. You just do your job and keep it as part of your normal life. This started 6 years ago. My father's work hours were reduced, and my mother's hands got so stiff she couldn't even turn a steering wheel right. They couldn't pay the mortgage anymore. I didn't think twice about it. I just opened my computer, went to my bank account, and set up an automatic payment. That first month was hard. The second month felt like it had to be done. By the time 6 months passed, I didn't even notice it anymore. It was like the noise of the fridge. It was always there in the background. Every 30 days, my phone would make a sound for a payment notification. There were no phone calls to say thank you. We didn't talk about it. Sometimes my mother would say how lucky they were that they still had a roof over their heads. I would just nod. I never told her that their luck actually had a name and a bank routing number on it. This pattern started way before I began paying their bills. When I finished college, my parents gave me a card at breakfast. There was a bill for $65 inside a small envelope. My mother told me they were proud. My father gave my shoulder a squeeze. I wasn't looking for anything big. I had already learned not to expect much, and to just be the one everyone could count on. 3 years after that, it was my sister's turn to graduate. They threw a big party in the backyard with lights hanging from the trees. There was a fancy cake and loud music from rented speakers. All the relatives were hanging out on the grass. At the end of the night, my father held up a set of keys in front of her. He held them so the sun made them shine. "Your new car is out front," he told her. Everyone started shouting and clapping. My sister cried on his shoulder. I clapped my hands with the rest of the group. I acted like I didn't feel a heavy stone in my chest. She was always the one people focused on, the one who made everyone laugh. I was just the person who planned things, cooked the food, and fixed problems before anyone else even saw them. My mother would tell people I didn't need much attention, like she was giving me a compliment. She acted like wanting nothing meant I was nothing. As we got older, the difference between us became even more clear. My sister moved from one hobby to another, changed jobs, and dated different guys. My parents called her every single day, morning and night. If she missed a deadline, they fixed it for her. If she spent too much money, they sent her more. When she cried, everything stopped just to help her. But when I was paying their house bill or changing my own plans and skipping vacations just to save money, I didn't say a word. They didn't tell people how great I was. They never asked me if I was doing okay. I was like a beam holding up a building that I didn't even own. You don't always know when things change until later. Some moments are so quiet you don't even hear them. For me, it was that day in the yard when I saw my sister hold those car keys up and everyone cheered. That was the moment I finally understood my role in this family. It wasn't anger yet, but I finally saw the truth of where I stood. About 3 months after the wedding, things felt like they were getting back to normal. I tried to tell myself that the news about the house was just another thing I could ignore. Then my sister sent me a text to come over for dinner. She said it would be casual, just us. My husband and I drove up to the house, which was her house now. The light on the porch looked warm against the dark sky. Through the window, I could see my mother putting up new curtains. They were cream-colored now, replacing the blue ones she had used for a long time. My sister was talking in the kitchen. sounding happy and comfortable, like she had lived there forever. The table was set when we walked inside. We had pot roast and fresh rolls, and there was a game playing on the TV in the next room. My father gave my husband a friendly pat on the back, but then he looked at me with a smile that felt fake. I sat down exactly where they told me to, right between my husband and my father. This was how we always sat, but the house didn't belong to my parents anymore. It didn't belong to me either. It belonged to the two people they had picked. We ate and talked about small things, like the trip to Hawaii and different paint colors. My sister talked about putting in a fire pit in the yard because she always wanted one. She moved her hands around while she talked, looking very excited. My mother just stared at her like she was the most important thing in the world. When the food was gone, my mother put her hands together and looked at my father. It was a sign. I felt my stomach get tight. "We wanted to talk to you about something," she said in a soft, practiced voice. "Your father and I have been thinking about what to do next." My father nodded his head. "Since this house belongs to them now, we need a quiet place to live." My mother took a deep breath like she was finally saying something she had planned for a long time. "We have decided that we are going to move into your vacation house." She said it like she was just telling me about her weekend plans. She wasn't asking me or checking if it was okay. It was a decision they had already made. The room got very quiet. My sister wouldn't look up from her food. My husband moved in his seat, just waiting to see what I would do. I put my fork down so it was perfectly straight next to the edge of my plate. My hands did not shake. I took a slow, deep breath. Inside of me, I felt something familiar break open. I wasn't shocked this time, I just finally saw the truth. They had already decided where I belonged in their lives. They had always done that. "No," I said. It was just one word, quiet but very firm. My mother blinked her eyes. "What?" she asked. I told her, "You are not moving into my house." The whole room went completely still. My chair made a small noise as I stood up, leaving the warm table behind. I walked away, and that chair stayed there. It had been full just a minute ago, but now it was definitely empty. The car ride home was quiet, but it wasn't the kind of silence that felt like it was going to break into pieces. It felt solid in my chest. It was the exact moment when something inside me stopped giving in to them. My husband didn't ask me what I was thinking right away. He never does that. He just kept one hand on the steering wheel and put his other hand near mine. He was close enough that I could reach for him if I wanted to, but I didn't. Not yet. I needed the quiet more than I needed someone to comfort me. When we got to our place, I hung up my coat, took off my shoes, and went straight to the bathroom. I turned on the faucet, caught the cold water in my hands, and pressed it against my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked very calm, maybe even too calm. My eyes were dry and my jaw was set tight. It was the kind of stillness you feel after you have been swallowing down huge storms for years. I didn't cry and I didn't shake. I just grabbed the towel, dried my face, and went to my desk. The desk lamp made a small circle of light on the wood. My laptop was sitting right in the middle, waiting for me. I opened it and the screen turned on. The first thing I did was block their phone numbers. I didn't do it to be mean. I did it because I had to. Every time I tried to set a rule with my parents, it went in the same circle. I set a boundary, they got mad. I felt guilty, they apologized, and then they forgot it ever happened. I couldn't do that loop anymore. I went to my contacts, selected them, and hit block. The sound of the clicks was very soft. It was a clean break, but it just looked like a normal task. Next, I checked the security for the vacation house. I opened the app and saw the map and the picture of the front porch. The system was turned on. I made the security settings even tighter. I put in a new code, set up two-step verification, and turned up the motion alerts. I took away their old access. Then I set it so the notifications would go right to my phone and my husband's phone so there wouldn't be any delay. After that, I opened a folder on my computer named Documents. Inside were 6 years of house payments I had made for them. It wasn't a complex list, just simple monthly records and receipts for the transfers. I had also written some short notes on the sides of the pages. When my parents used to call me because they needed help, I didn't read these. I didn't have to. The dates showed the whole story. They showed a pattern and the truth. I picked the whole folder, made it a smaller file, and saved it where I could find it fast. I wasn't going to use it to fight them. I just wanted to keep myself honest. I needed to remind myself that none of this was just in my head. My husband was leaning against the doorway, watching me quietly. "Do you want to talk?" he asked. "Not yet," I told him. He just nodded and walked back into the living room. He didn't sigh or act like I hurt his feelings. He just gave me space, which was exactly what I needed. I opened a new page on my computer. It wasn't for revenge, it was just to see everything clearly. I made a list of every single bill I had paid for my parents. I wrote down the months I covered their costs when they couldn't do it. I wrote down the times I changed my own schedule, my own budget, and my own plans. I didn't do it to count what they owed me. I did it to witness it myself. I typed it out line by line, and the numbers looked very plain and simple. When I was done, I closed the file. I didn't even save it. Around midnight, I went to the window. The lights of the city were glowing far away. They looked soft and blurry, like someone had smeared gold paint across the sky. I could hear the cars driving below, a steady sound coming through the glass. It reminded me that the world keeps moving even when you finally stop doing what people want. My husband came over and put a cup of warm tea on the windowsill. His fingers touched mine. "Are you okay?" he whispered. "I think so," I said. We stood there for a long time. We didn't talk. We just breathed at the same speed. For the first time in months, I felt like I was actually standing on solid ground. The next morning, I woke up and my head felt very clear. I took a shower, tied my hair back, and got dressed for my job. Every move I made felt careful and important, like I was changing on the inside. Before I walked out, I stopped at the drawer near the front door. I opened it slowly. Inside, I saw a ring of keys. There was the spare for my apartment, my office key, and the one for the vacation house. I picked up the vacation house key. The metal was cold and the edges felt sharp. This small piece of steel represented 6 years of me being responsible and keeping quiet while my hard work was ignored. I squeezed it in my hand until it left a mark on my palm. Then I put it back in the drawer very gently, almost like a ceremony. At work, everything seemed louder and sharper. I could hear the keyboards clicking and the printers humming. I sat at my desk and focused on my projects better than I had in a long time. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't know. I didn't even open it. I just deleted it. I knew that my new rules would only work if I kept them. The rest of the day went by like a normal day should. When I got home, my husband, Ryan, was sitting on the couch reading. I sat down next to him and closed my eyes. My shoulders felt relaxed. The quiet in the house didn't feel like something was missing anymore. It just felt like I had my own space. A boundary is not like a wall. It is just a shape or a line you draw for yourself. That night, I checked my security app again. Everything was locked and quiet. I turned off the lamp. I wasn't going to fix the things they broke anymore. The phone call came on a Wednesday morning while I was in the middle of a meeting. My phone buzzed once and then again on the table. I thought it might be a message from Ryan, but it was a number I didn't recognize. I went out into the hallway to answer it. A police officer told me he was at my vacation house. He said there were 2 people there who said they were my parents. They had used a key to get inside, and the alarm system flagged them. He asked if I could come to the property. I found Ryan at his desk, grabbed my coat, and told him they were at the house. He grabbed his keys and we left. The drive out of the city was very long and quiet. When we turned onto the gravel road, I saw the police car. Its lights were not flashing. 2 officers were standing by the porch. My parents were sitting on the steps next to 3 old suitcases that didn't match. My mother looked at me and seemed happy. She didn't look guilty. She looked like she expected me to fix everything. She stood up and told me to tell the police that everything was fine and that they were allowed to be there. The officer asked me if they were really my parents. I told him yes, but I also told him they did not have permission to stay there. My mother looked very upset. My father stood up and brushed some dust off his clothes. He sounded annoyed when he said they didn't break in and that they just used the key I gave them. I told him that key was only for emergencies, not for moving into the house. The officer said they could take them away to the station. He asked me if I wanted to press charges for trespassing, but I said no. I just told him they couldn't stay. My mother got very angry. She told me I was unbelievable after everything they had done for me. Ryan stood near me so I would know I wasn't alone. The police led my parents to the car, and their suitcases stayed on the porch like things they had forgotten. A locksmith came by a little later and changed all the locks. He gave me the new keys, and they felt solid in my hand. After the police car drove away, the house was quiet again. I locked the door myself and left. The next morning, I felt very light. I made some coffee and watched the sun come up over the city. My cousin Sarah called me later that day. She spoke carefully. She told me that my parents went back to my sister's house, but my sister would not let them in. Now my parents were living in a small apartment on the edge of town. My mother had to get a full-time job to pay for their bills. That evening, my phone buzzed again with a voicemail from my mother. Her voice sounded very small. She said they made mistakes and wanted to talk. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I didn't delete it either. Some people need time before you can forgive them. I sat at my desk and looked at my vacation house on a rental website. The pictures showed the sun shining in the windows and the clean floors. It felt good to look at it and know it was mine to do whatever I wanted with. I finished the listing and closed my computer. Sometimes being free doesn't mean making a lot of noise. It just means you aren't being used for the wrong reasons anymore. I finally drew a line for myself, and the quiet that followed was the best part. If you have ever had to find your own peace from the ground up, you are not alone.